Paul Kelly, editor-at-large at The Australian, joins me now for more on this. Paul, a few interesting things going on, including Bernie Sanders vowing to do anything he can, in his words, to help Biden win. Is this significant in making sure that the left wing of the party turns out to vote?
Well, I think it is, Tom. There's no doubt that the strong endorsement by Bernie Sanders of Biden will help Biden in terms of keeping the Democrats united. The point I'd make, though, is that Biden has moved a long way to the left on a range of issues: tax, economic issues, identity politics, climate change. So one of the big questions is the extent to which Trump, and Trump will campaign on this, is able to discredit Biden as being too weak and too much to the left. The fact that the Democrats are united, they're coming together behind Biden, is important. Biden's problem, I think, is that he looks too weak. One of them is whether he looks a strong and credible alternative to Trump as we move into the more intense phase of the campaign.
Peter, if I could ask you, Peter Hartcher, sorry, joining me. I didn't introduce you earlier, but the postal controversy in this election, it could be a huge one. We take our mind back to last election and the concern was Trump loses and all of his voters refuse to accept the result, including because of what Donald Trump had to say. It could be the other way around this time.
Yes, it's an American election, Tom. Anything is possible. There'll be litigation. In fact, it's already started with some of the state governments in the US suing over this underfunding of the US Postal Service in an apparent vote repression exercise by Donald Trump. So that problem of contestability, the doggedness of vote suppression efforts, the litigation that inhabits every US election will be there, and it'll be stronger than ever. And maybe you do have that problem in the end. Maybe this will be like the Bush-Gore election in the end, decided in the US Supreme Court rather than at the ballot count. I'd throw in one other thought just on your earlier point, Tom, about the value of Bernie Sanders endorsing Biden. The polls all show us that Biden's got an advantage over Trump. Apart from the limitations of the polls, which we learned at some expense last time around, the polls don't even purport to show the intensity of voter attachment. So they'll show how many people may be saying they're inclined to vote for this candidate or the other, but there's nothing about the intensity. And intensity is all important because it's a volunteer election. It's a voluntary turnout. So, commitment to voting and passion counts. Biden doesn't arouse any passion. Something like 7% of people intending to vote for him say that they're strongly committed to him. That's very weak. Trump's support may be less, but his supporters are really strongly committed. Bernie Sanders adds a passion element and a commitment element to the Democratic voting ticket that Biden will really need because turnout is king.
Perhaps we'll see a lot more of Bernie Sanders then in the next few months. So, Paul, when we do look at the election, do you agree with Peter in terms of whether or not we're going to see much inspiration behind Joe Biden? And does that mean that this is all about the extent to which COVID-19, the economy, the unrest stalks Donald Trump all the way to the ballot box?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, to the extent that the Democrats can make the election a referendum on Donald Trump's handling of the virus, then you would imagine that we'll see a change of presidency. And I think it's interesting that if you look at what Michelle Obama said that you ran a few minutes ago, the focus there is very much on Trump's mismanagement of the health crisis, his mismanagement of the virus. This proves that he is the wrong man to be president of the United States at this point in time. And if you look objectively, if you take a step back and look objectively at the state of the American economy, if you look at the problems of the virus, then you would think objectively this is an election where we would see a change of president. What Trump has got to try and do is Trump's got to try and introduce subjective factors into that and demonstrate that he's too strong for Biden and that Biden actually can't manage Trump when we get into the campaign proper. But I think the Democrats are certainly on the right ticket here, focusing on the virus and arguing that this should be a referendum on Trump.
I just want to play as well for our viewers. Donald Trump also making his own attacks. He's been on the campaign trail in Minnesota. Here was some of that.
Joe Biden is the puppet of left-wing extremists trying to erase our borders, eliminate our police, indoctrinate our children, vilify our heroes, take away our energy. You know all about that. Take away our energy, if you can believe it. No fossil fuel. Destroy our Second Amendment, attack the right to life, and replace American freedom with left-wing fascism.
So going all down the left-wing attack that Paul Kelly alluded to. Peter, I wonder if there's a flip side to all of this, that if somehow numbers do improve and the trajectory on COVID is vastly improved by the time voters go to the ballot box, and even the economy is, look, we know there'll be these huge job losses, they're not going to turn around overnight, but it's really going the other way. If all the eggs in the basket on the Democratic side are that this has been the biggest failure of Donald Trump's presidency and it's improving, that could backfire because there's plenty of other things to go on.
Yes, that's quite true in the specifics, as unlikely as it is that there'll be any dramatic improvement either in the health or economic situation in the next, 2.5 months. If the scenario you sketch occurs, that is possible. But the larger thing that those two particulars point to, the health handling and the state of the economy, is really the underlying issue is Donald Trump as a risk. And if American voters are feeling unsettled, anxious, worried about the future, unhappy with the situation, unhappy with Trump, then the point of a Biden candidacy has to be that he is simply a reassuring, credible and non-threatening candidate. So Trump's trying to put what you just heard from Donald Trump is an attempt to inject some risk into Joe Biden. Joe Biden's doing a great job of being a sort of a cardboard cutout, rarely appearing, rarely speaking, very cautious policy positions, despite Donald Trump's best efforts to pump him up. So I would suggest to you, Tom, that it's which candidate is more threatening and unsettling and which is more reassuring is the winning framing that the Democratic Party wants. And obviously it's the one that Donald Trump fears, hence the speech you just heard.